More pneumonia cases were confirmed in China and even outside the country over the weekend. And this is raising concerns for Chinese health authorities.
Confirmed cases in the U.S. now top 20 million.
The number of cases of COVID-19 outside China has increased 13-fold.
The WHO not confirming but also not ruling out a coronavirus.
The World Health Organization has just declared that this is a pandemic.
There's been a ritual that started almost every evening now in New York City. And at 7 p.m., New Yorkers go out on the streets from their windows and they cheer for healthcare workers.
From coast to coast, applause for today's heroes.
In the last half hour, the US Senate has found President Trump not guilty of abuse of power and the obstruction of Congress in his historic impeachment trial.
And the Oscar goes to Parasite.
Please sit down.
So, Folklore is out. The Cardigan music video is out.
They came to demand change, despite a deadly virus, despite the dangers of large crowds, and despite warnings to stay away. Organized under the rallying cry of Black Lives Matter, and in the shadow of the anti-racism leaders that have gone before.
It was important to come and stand in solidarity for the death of George Floyd. It has impacted a lot of us. Seeing another human being, a black man, die in such a circumstance made me want to come out today.
No justice, no peace!
The so-called murder hornets arriving in the United States for the first time.
There are troubling new allegations tonight about that deadly port explosion in Beirut. Sources have told the Guardian newspaper that prior to the blast, dozens of bags of fireworks were being stored in the same warehouse as that stockpile of ammonium nitrate, which acts as an accelerant in a fire.
French President Emmanuel Macron.
President Bolsonaro has...
Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany.
Donald Trump
tested positive for the coronavirus.
It's a disastrous new normal. Catastrophic virus, once contained to one season, now a harrowing year-round battle.
We gotta go.
Please welcome the Vice President-elect of the United States of America.
Former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States.
An outpouring of joy, of hope, renewed faith in tomorrow. Bring a better day.
Plan of attack was they would attack from land, sea, and air. By land, first, American forces and Filipino guerrillas would surround the camp the night before the attack. By air, American paratroopers would land here and then join in the fight as the battle began. And by water, Amtrak would come down this road and carry the internees to safety. The internees were being kept in these small bamboo barracks. Camp escapees told the U.S. forces that the Japanese did calisthenics every morning. The night before the attack, U.S. forces and Filipino guerrillas surrounded the camp. As the Japanese did their morning calisthenics, the U.S. forces waited. At 7 o'clock in the morning, U.S. paratroopers landed at their drop zones. That was the signal for the US forces and Filipino guerrillas to engage the Japanese. With the Japanese defeated, the internees refused to leave as the American Amtraks arrived. After the American troops burned down the huts, the internees and American soldiers finally began to load onto the Amtrak. Here is a shot of the soldiers and the internees in the Amtraks. While some internees went in the Amtraks, some of the healthier ones walked on foot. After 2 trips across the lake, all 2,000 internees were safe.
COVID-19 and how it produces incels. The coronavirus is a large family of single-stranded enveloped RNA viruses. They are susceptible to mutation and recombination, which makes them highly diverse. They have spike glycoproteins, which has 2 subunits, S1 and S2. S1's job is to bind to the receptor on the surface of the host cell, while S2 fuses with the cell's membrane. There are many different variants of coronaviruses, most of which circulate among animals, such as pigs, camels, bats, or cats. There are only 7 known types of coronaviruses that infect humans. 4 of these cause only mild to moderate diseases, similar to a common cold, but 3 can cause severe to even fatal diseases. Severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus emerged in November 2002, which caused SARS, which disappeared in 2004. Middle East respiratory syndrome, which was identified in 2012, causes MERS, which continues to cause localized outbreaks. And finally, SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19, which emerged in December of 2019. This was declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization on March 11, 2020. How the virus enters a cell. The coronavirus approaches the cell membrane, and then an S1 subunit at the distal end of a glycoprotein spike of the virus binds to a membrane-bound molecule of ACE2. As more S1 subunits of the glycoprotein spikes bind to the membrane-bound molecules of ACE2, the membrane starts to form an envelope around the virus, which is called an endosome. The process continues until the endosome is complete. Now, there are 2 ways a virus can enter a cell. The first way is a host, which in this case is TMPRSS2, cleaves the virus's S1 subunits from its S2 subunits, and also splits the ACE2 enzymes. The endosome enters a cell where the virus is released by acidification. The second way is where TMPRSS2 causes irreversible conformational changes in the virus's S2 subunits, activating them, after which the virus fuses to the cell membrane and can be internalized by the cell. Once the virus is inside the cell, it releases a piece of genetic material called RNA. The infected cell then reads the RNA and starts to make proteins that will help build copies of the virus. As the cell infection progresses, the cell begins to dish out new spikes and other proteins that will be used to form copies of the coronavirus. The proteins are made and assembled in the ribosomes. A copy of the virus is corralled into a section of the membrane that's set with newly made viral proteins. When the RNA-enclosed membrane pinches shut, a new virus is formed. Newly made viruses travel in a special compartment to leave the cell. Once the copies of the virus leave the cell, the cycle begins all over again, and one copy of the virus can infect hundreds to thousands of cells.
Hello everyone, my name is Mula and today I'm going to present Gila monsters. Okay, first off, let's start where they live. Gila monsters usually live in western and southern Arizona to Mexico, in the deserts where it's very hot. And if it's hot in the desert, there is less food. So when Gila monster finds food, it eats more than it usually does. stores the rest in its tail. So when it's hungry and there's no food left, it can use the food from its tail. It usually eats small mammals, lizards, frogs, birds, and eggs. What Gila monsters look like? They have pink patches in their back and tail. On the bottom, it's just black. They get their name from Arizona's Gila River Basin, where they were first discovered. Gila monster is the slowest lizard on Earth. Gila monsters are 12 to 14 inches long. The Gila monster population size is unknown, but there are about several thousands. Monster bites are extremely painful, ow. But a Gila monster can rarely kill a human. The monster's sound is just a hiss, like a snake. Monster's lifespan is about 35 years. Monsters spend 95% of their time underground and 5% of their time on the surface. Monsters are the biggest lizard native to USA. Gila monsters weigh 4 pounds and their size is about 20 inches. Gila monsters are one of only 2 poisonous lizards on Earth to have existed. There may have been more poisonous lizards on Earth a long time ago, but these are the only lizards that are poisonous that exist. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.
What do you see inside this cup? I don't see anything. There's nothing inside the cup. There is air inside this cup. Air is made out of matter, like oxygen and carbon dioxide. These are gases. You cannot see them, but they are there. They take up space, so they have volume. I will show you with this experiment. If I put this paper towel inside the water, what's going to happen? It's gonna get wet. Let's see. Look how wet it is. Your hypothesis was right, Lila. But what if I put another paper towel in this cup? What else is in this cup? Air. That's right. Now what else? A paper towel. What do you think will happen when I put the paper towel in the water now? It will get wet. Let's see, watch what happens when I put the cup with the paper towel inside the water this time. Look, the paper towel isn't wet. That's because there's air inside the cup. It is trapped inside this cup, so the water can't go inside. But look what happens when I tilt the cup, just a teensy bit in the water. Do it again. Look, the air rushes out. Do you see the bubbles? And look, and then the water rushes in. See, it is very wet. So even though you can't see it, gases like air have mass and volume. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carlos, and today I'll be teaching you how to make fractions into decimals. First, let's write the example, 24 over 5. Now, let's divide 24 and 5 first. Then let's multiply 4 times 5. Then let's subtract. Now, there is a remainder. Now, if there's a remainder, let's put a decimal point in the 4 beside it, and also 24, and put 0 here. Now, we can put down 0 and divide 5 and 40. Now, the answer for 24 fifths is 4.8. And that's how you do fractions into decimals. Now, there's another example how to make fractions to decimals. First, let's write the example. Now, let's put the multiplication symbol. So I want to make 5 10. So now let's put 2 here. And we also have to put 2 in the top. Now let's multiply. Now after I multiply, let's do one jump here and also here. So 0 doesn't matter, so let's erase that. Then 4.8 once it's equals to 4.8. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Alicia Dominic Maguita, and today I will be talking about earthquakes. Earthquakes are vibrations on the surface of the earth resulting from the sudden release of energy. The vibration could be small and could sway away hanging objects, or it could be large and could destroy buildings and cause catastrophic damage. The breaking of rocks beneath the surface causes tectonic forces to produce earthquakes. This is comparable to the breaking of a stick. Here's a stick, for example. When you hold a stick from both its ends and bend it, you are putting stress or pressure, storing energy in it. When this pressure is suddenly removed, the stick goes back to its original form, releasing the stored energy. After constantly bending it, the stick will suddenly break, like that, and release the energy, making vibrations and sounds. The stick is now back to its original position, but it is divided into 2 pieces. This is called the elastic rebound theory. That's it. Thank you for listening.
What happens when sugar is dissolved in water? Hi, I am Benjamin Price Marquez. Do you ever wonder what happens to sugar when it is dissolved in water? Let me show you. Let's put a spoonful of sugar in this water. Without mixing the water, do you see what's happening? The sugar is being dissolved in the water. It seems that it's becoming invisible. As we mix the sugar even more, the sugar is dissolved. We are using brown sugar so it would be easier for us to see it, because as it dissolves, it changes the color of the water. We can see that it is changing while we are mixing the water also. So what happens with the sugar while it is mixed in the water? When adding sugar to the water molecules are attracted to the sugar molecules. Once the attraction becomes large enough, the water is able to pull individual sugar molecules from the bulk of the sugar crystals into the solution. Particles of the sugar get between the spaces of the particles of water and fills that space. We notice that the particles of water have space between them, and that is why the sugar particles get into those spaces, resulting in no change of water level. That's what happens with the sugar when it is mixed with the water. Goodbye and thank you.